Hello, everyone. A hearty welcome to each one of you. I am pleased that you decided to join this course, and I'm excited to have you as a part of this amazing 4-week journey of learning to create an adaptable course design. We shall begin with its very first module today, that is beginning with the end. I hope you will enjoy each moment and make this a memorable experience of creating a course design. I look forward to a wonderful learning association with you all. So let's begin with introductions. So let me tell you something about myself. I am Poonam Vohra, the course developer and instructor too. I possess postgraduate degrees in education as well as in economics. Being passionate about learning, I persistently have been updating my skills by completing various courses related to technology in education. Few are mentioned here. You can read it on the slide. I have a rich experience of teaching economics for more than 25 years to high school students in India. I learned the usage of computers in 2000, introduced teaching through PowerPoint presentation way back in 2004, initiated teaching online in 2014 using WizIQ platform, experimented flipped learning in 2015, introduced making collaborative PowerPoint presentations using G slides to and with the students in 2016. Also, I have developed 3 engaging online courses for high school students and has written a copyrighted 600-page manuscript covering the topics of microeconomics, macroeconomics, and Indian economic development. I have written a research paper which was published in October 2021 on mindful teaching and adopting a resilient course design. I've been presenting on pedagogy-related topics on Moodle since 2017. Now I have developed this course on adaptable course design and looking forward to learn with you during the next 4 weeks. Once again, a hearty welcome to each one of you for joining me in this journey. Thank you. Now let me have a walkthrough about why, what, and how of this course. Why are we here? We are here because this 4 weeks course has been developed as a part of Open Education for a Better World. It's an international online mentoring program founded by University of Nova Gorica and Joseph Stephen Institute, Slovenia, with UNESCO Chair on Open Technologies for Open Learning. The program supports development and implementation of freely accessible modules and resources for education aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It enrolls mentees from all over the world. Projects are developed under the guidance of internationally recognized mentors and implemented as open educational resources. I'm thankful to our coordinator, Subhada Smaulik, visiting professor at Alia University, Kolkata, and an independent media teacher and also a filmmaker. I'm thankful to mentor Dr. Ramesh Sharma, who is an associate professor of instructional design at Ambedkar University, Delhi, and Open Educational Resources Ambassador for Open Educational Resources Foundation. I'm also thankful to Dr. Nelly Deutz who, apart from being actively engaged in various technology and education related ventures, organizes faculty workshops for HiFlex and blended learning, and an excellent Moodle mentor. Their support has been of immense help in developing the program. Now, let me give you a brief idea about what and how of the course. I'm sure by now you must have gone through the overview page of the course. If not, then please go through the page and watch videos. What will happen in the next 4 weeks? Let me just tell you. In each of the 4 weeks, there will be a Zoom meeting. You will be a part of one or another activity that needs to be completed either as a group or individually. Creating a course design is a group assignment that must be complete by 15th May. Please follow the instructions for completing your task. Also, you will find assigned forums for queries each week and a designated forum for posting link of the completed task. You will find that in some assignments, get a grade is mentioned. I would like to clarify that it is not a graded course. Getting grade actually implies completing the assigned task. What will you achieve by the end of this course? By the end of 4 weeks, this online course will help you to create an adaptable course design, which can be used for your own courses later on. Such a course design will enable your learners to easily shift between online and in-person learning. Also, it's fun to learn something new, and you get a certificate to have fun and learning. So why not to do it? How will you create a course design? In order to create a course design, you need to decide a topic or subject. Since it is a collaborative work, keeping in view the diverse background of the participants, a list of topics has been suggested. You may or may not pick up the topic from the suggested list to design your course. You will find this suggested list of topics on the page itself. This journey of learning will reach its destination by presenting your course design on 13th May. Apologies, please let me quickly check the waiting room quickly. I think people will take them some more time maybe to join in. So I'll continue. I'll continue with the topic that is beginning with the end. It actually means planning backward for designing a course. Backward designing is about starting with desired student learning outcomes and working backwards through assessments, learning activities, and content delivery. The idea is that assessments and everything else in your course gets aligned to desired learning outcomes instead of creating learning outcomes based on what you are assessing. This approach enriches teaching and learning process. It's an important professional step and is well worth implementing. Now, let us just compare with the traditional approach. All of us have been adopting this traditional approach. The assessment is created after the lessons are planned. The assessment is a kind of an afterthought, a check to see if students were paying attention to the stuff they were taught. For most of my teaching career, this is how I have planned. And I believe till date, a number of teachers adopt the traditional way of planning. If so many teachers have been adopting this, what's wrong with it? Well, when we plan this way, we are more likely to include content and activities that have questionable value. When teaching the Industrial Revolution, for example, the goal is just to teach about the Industrial Revolution. So one can include anything that has any relation to this topic. That is, how did it change the economies of the world? How did Industrial Revolution change society? What were the inventions that took place due to Industrial Revolution? Who were the inventors? And one may talk about a particular industry. And all these things are done generally through a project or worksheet. This is a normal procedure we have been following. But by doing this, we have not taken into account that such random approach creates two major problems. One, there is lack of durable and transferable learning. One reason so many of us don't remember much of what we learned in school is that we learned it through this haphazard topic-driven approach. These random activities are taking up precious time that could have been spent on much more valuable stuff. And the other is poor student engagement. Our students know, specifically nowadays, they are very smart. They know when they are being asked to do something which is pointless. If they don't see the relevance of what they are learning, or if they don't find any direct connection between the content of the course and the outcome, they will definitely tune it out. Sure, many students will still accept what you ask them to do simply because they want good grades. And they may think of the benefits that come with the good grades. But actually speaking, they are not learning. As a just opposite to this traditional approach, we have this backward design. Backward design is to start with the end goal, to design a sequence of lessons, problems, projects, presentations, assignments, assessments that result in the student achieving the academic goals of a course or unit. That is, actually learning what they are expected to learn. Let's discuss more about backward design. Backward design has been very popular now, simply because its premise is very simple. Here, planning starts by focusing on the required end result. That is, teachers shift their thinking from a content-focused design to a result-focused approach. It results in creating a logical teaching progressions that allows them to address what the student needs to learn and what data can be collected to show that the end goal has been achieved. The teachers can integrate subject matter with critical thinking activities and technology. And when an instructor shares course planning with their students, and the students know what is expected of them, it brings greater coherence to the education of students, and they also appreciate such inherent transparency. The alignment of learning objectives and assessments gives students clarity that enables them to build the skills and knowledge needed to accomplish necessary learning goals. Also, it eliminates unnecessary disruptions in the learning process. So it permits teachers to spend less time in planning courses. Backward designing actually requires 3 critical steps. One is to identify desired results. That is, what should students know and be able to do at the end of the course? These are nothing but learning outcomes. Or what do you want the students to learn? That must be clear. Second step is to determine acceptable evidence that students have actually achieved these learning outcomes. These are your formative, summative, and nowadays it's alternative assessments. Trying to say, how will students and the teacher know if they are learning? Step 3 is to plan learning experiences, instruction, and resources that will help students be able to provide evidence that they have met the learning outcomes. Trying to say that select the best path that gives the greatest probability of success in reaching the desired outcome. That is, what will the teacher and students need to do for students to learn? If you have not been currently thinking in terms of backward design, please consider applying it as you plan a single lesson plan or student assignment. It's well worth implementing. So the teacher has to identify the desired results. For that, teacher begins by reviewing the learning standards that students are expected to meet by the end of the course or the grade level. For that, instructors must ask the following 3 questions. 1. What should participants hear, read, view, or explore? This kind of knowledge is considered as knowledge worth being familiar with. Information that fits within this question is the lowest priority content information that will be mentioned in the lesson, unit, or course. Second, what knowledge and skills should participants master? The knowledge and skills at this substage are considered important to know and do. The information that fits within this question could be the facts, concepts, principles, processes, strategies, and methods students should know when they leave the course. 3. What are the big ideas and important understandings participants should retain? This is most important. One thing is they should know, another is they must master, third is they must be retained. So we are focusing on what must be retained. So the big ideas and important understandings are referred to as enduring understandings, because these are the ideas that instructors want students to remember even after their course gets complete. So the idea is to create a cross-curricular unit that provides students with meaningful learning opportunities, enhance their understanding of each topic, and the use of technology within both realms. The teacher must first identify the priorities within both subjects, select those enduring concepts that need to be attained for the long term. And the next step is to put together a list of essential knowledge, skills, concepts that students need to learn during a specific unit. Using this information, the teacher can then create a final assessment, which can be used to measure to what degree students are achieving the desired results. By answering the 3 questions, instructors will be able to determine the best content for the course. One has to identify the evidence of learning. It is just saying like, just as you can't confirm a hypothesis without testing it, so you can't confirm whether your students have achieved the course learning outcomes without some form of assessment. Therefore, assessment is the second stage of backward design. That is, after identifying the desired results or the learning goals, the instructor needs to consider the assessments and performance tasks students will complete in order to demonstrate evidence of understanding and learning. In this stage, the teacher asks these 2 questions. 1. How do I know if students have achieved the desired results? And 2, what will I accept as evidence of student understanding and proficiency? So one needs to look for meaningful ways to evaluate student achievement. For that, the instructors would consider the assessments and the performance tasks students will complete in order to demonstrate evidence of understanding and learning. The focus is definitely on higher level thinking skills and practical application. And these skills are much in demand. That is why it is of utmost importance that we must focus on developing these skills. And this will come in the form of course assessment, which must be appropriately aligned with course outcomes. For example, if by the end of a course of study, students should be able to design a document in GDoc. Let's take this as an example. It is inappropriate to test this ability using a multiple choice quiz, as this assessment will not provide you with an adequate representation of the student's ability to design GDoc. In this case, a more appropriate assessment would be for students to actually design a GDoc according to a specific set of criteria. Simply put, if students should be able to do something, they should be assessed on their ability to do that thing. If students should know certain information, it is important to provide them with opportunities to convey their knowledge. One can refer to Bloom's taxonomy. Everyone knows about it. It is a framework that places levels of learning in a hierarchy. Although the type of assessments that often first come to mind are formative and summative assessments. We all know about formative assessment and about summative assessment, but I'll just give you an idea. Formative assessments basically are designed to provide feedback to the students and instructor about how well the learning process is going. It identifies misconceptions or the student's struggles and their learning gaps. And these learning gaps can be closed by having class discussions or quizzes or peer evaluation or 1-minute reflection writing and so on. There are various ways. On the other hand, summative assessment is designed to provide evidence that students have achieved a learning outcome or otherwise gained skills or knowledge throughout the course. A standardized test, lab exercise, exams, final projects, discussion forums, diagrams, final presentations are often used for summative assessment of students' knowledge and skills. And we all have been using summative assessments along with the formative assessments in order to assess the students' performance. This is nothing new, and we cannot we cannot forget these tests, but these are not enough nowadays. Alternative assessments are of more importance. The need of the hour is to incorporate more and more of alternative assessments. It's all about getting students to show how much they have learned by executing tasks. This is a method of evaluation that measures a student's level of proficiency in a subject as opposed to the student's level of knowledge. Some of the ways by which alternative assessments can be included are mentioned here. You can read the slide. For that, such learning opportunities be provided that require students to communicate effectively, engage in creative problem solving, collaborate virtually as well as face-to-face, and apply critical thinking skills. Such tasks utilize analytical reasoning and logical thinking capabilities. The crux is that the choice of output, the activity designed to generate that output, should be determined by the learning outcomes, so that the instructors have to think about options that are particularly suited for digital and remote delivery. It requires transparent expectations for learning, where time is the variable and learning is constant. Once you have written a student-centered learning objective and determined how you will assess your students, the developer then needs to plan the instructional strategies and activities that will be implemented. At this last phase of backward design, while planning the learning activities, one must allow for flexible student participation. That is, whether the students are attending in the classroom remotely or some combination. One must include opportunities for students to think and reflect on what they are learning, how they are learning, and the significance of what they are learning. So keeping students actively engaged with the instructor, the content, and each other promotes student success. When students are observing, doing, communicating, and reflecting, they are actively working with concepts and people. These activities are considered as interactions and hence at the center of the teaching and learning process. When learning takes place using online tools or asynchronously, the way in which students and faculty interact changes. So there are three main types of interactions that take place between instructor and students, between students and between students and content. The learning activities will differ depending on the content, context, tools, and people involved. Ideally, students will have opportunities to attempt tasks and convey their knowledge and abilities. This practice comes in the form of learning experiences and guided instruction. At this stage, it is most appropriate to consider how students will practice and build their abilities, what information and skills students will need to be explicitly taught and guided on, how best to convey this information in the light of the performance goals and assessment strategies, and finally, which resources are most appropriate given the performance goals. To be more systematic in assessment, planning, and implementation, assessments must reveal how well students have learned what we want them to learn, while instruction ensures that they learn it. For this to occur, assessments, learning objectives, and instructional strategies need to be closely aligned so that they reinforce one another. To ensure that these three components of your course are aligned, ask yourself the following questions. 1. What do I want students to know how to do when they leave this course? That's nothing but learning objectives. 2. What kind of tests will reveal whether students have achieved the learning objectives I have identified? This is nothing but assessment. And 3. What kind of activities in and out of the class will reinforce my learning objectives and prepare students for assessments? That's nothing but the instructional strategies. But the question is, why is it important to align assessments with learning outcomes? Alignment is foundational if assessments are to be valid. Just like in a research study, when you want to make sure that your research instrument is measuring what you want it to measure, by aligning your assessments to your learning outcomes, you are making sure that you are assessing what you want to assess. When assessments are aligned with the learning outcomes, they provide dependable evidence as to how well students are reaching the desired outcomes. Such alignment also reinforces the students what needs to be mastered and helps them track their progress in the course. Students actually pay attention to what you test. For example, if your intent is for the students to be able to apply, criticize, or evaluate a certain concept, but assignments and exams ask students to remember, identify, and describe the concept, then your assessment are not aligned with your desired learning outcomes. Asking students to describe a concept does not encourage them to evaluate the concept in context and does not provide evidence that they can evaluate the concept. So what happens if the course is misaligned? If assessment are misaligned with learning objectives, it can undermine both student motivation and learning. Students pay attention to what you test. I just said that. Let's consider these two cases. For example, if intent is for the students to be able to apply or evaluate a certain concept, but assignments and exams ask them to remember or describe the concept, then assessments are not aligned. Your objective for the students is to apply the skills, but your assessment is measuring only the factual recall. So consequently, students will hone their analytical skills, but are frustrated in the exam that does not measure what they have learned. Your assessment measures students' ability to compare the argument of different authors or explain a particular concept. Let's think in these terms also, but instructional strategies may focus entirely on summarizing the argument or summarizing the different approach. So consequently, students do not learn or practice the skill of comparison and evaluation that will be assessed. So if it is misaligned, what needs to be done? The solution is to have a balanced assessment strategy. Students need to get frequent feedback on how they are doing in your course. Are they learning what they are supposed to be learning? Are they achieving the learning outcome? Students might feel more anxiety about these questions in the unfamiliar, remote, or blended learning context. So the most effective way to ensure that students get the feedback they need to stay on track is through a balanced assessment strategy, which includes both formative and summative assessments, as well as the alternative assessments. Courses that use a blend of these assessments provide more consistent support for learning than relying exclusively on midterm or a final exam. With this, the explanation that I wanted to give is complete, but we shall be discussing a case study. And for that, let's begin with the case study. This case study is about those students who want to apply to who want to apply for undergraduate or graduate programs in US. The students are required to complete several standardized tests as a part of their application process. GMAT is one of them, and it is most popular. So deliberately, I have picked up GMAT and its score to think over it, why the test results are the way they are. Everyone knows, but I'll just repeat it. GMAT actually has 4 areas. One is analytical writing, assessment. Second is integrated reasoning. Third is verbal reasoning, and fourth is quantitative reasoning. I'm providing few statistics which has been given by the Graduate Management Admission Council. According to this council, exam is taken by 200,000 plus aspirants every year. And the average test score at the top 10 business schools is 720 plus. The problem is that only 6% of the test takers score 720 or above. The total GMAT average score mentioned by Graduate Management Admission Council is 568.21. And the average score for top 50 business schools is in US ranges from 634 to 734. In Europe, ranges from 638 to 709. In Canada, it ranges from 520 to 780. And in Australia, it ranges from 600 to 6. This is the case study that has to be pondered on. In order to discuss this case study, activity is that all the participants are supposed to be in different groups in the breakout rooms. And you get 10 minutes to discuss and post answers of the questions on the Miro board. Please check if you have access to the Miro board. You have this course, day 1, Zoom meeting. Here it is mentioned, Miro board link. Let's open it. I have actually created 7 groups. Okay, so you are there in this group, in this room for 10 minutes, next 10 minutes. And you can pick up any one card, one unique colored post-it note, and post as many answers as you can to these 3 questions. And we'll get back to you after 10 minutes. Yeah, so what makes GMAT so difficult? Let's see, you have written, I think students are not aware of how they can be assessed. You have also written, teachers teach the curriculum as it is, but not considering the way students can be assessed. Right. So yeah, that's great. That's a great answer. And what is the purpose of backward designing? It is to allow students and instructor to visualize desired outcome to achieve it. Wonderful. That is what the purpose of backward design. And discuss the alternative strategies for online and in-person assessment to tackle the GMAT challenge. Design as much as possible of directed assessment tools. Work one example with students and let them work by themselves and discuss it. And recorded short videos for every question, then let students work by themselves. That's great. There can be so many other views too at the same time. That's wonderful. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I agree with you.
Obviously, because more people we have, more discussions will be there, more responses will be there. But what you have written is appropriate for all the 3 questions, right? So this was just an activity. It was just an icebreaker kind of an activity, so that you, let's know each other a little more. And it is also a sort of a foundation to begin with the course. This activity has nothing to do with the course that you will be designing. Okay, so I think with this, the session comes to an end, and we shall meet next time, next Friday, for the next module, right? Which will be creating a mix map. See you next week.